The alarm at the station hadn't gone off yet, but Mark was already awake. He sat up quietly, so as not to wake the guys in the duty shift bedroom. The water in the shower was cool, the boiler was acting up again, but he didn't complain. He'd been taking extra shifts almost every week for the past few months. It was easier to raise money for Lily's dream. He laid out a clean uniform on the table, checked the first aid kit and the equipment list. His habit of ticking off boxes didn't irritate his colleagues. Mark always completed the list on time. By 7 in the morning, they were sitting in the station kitchen. Captain Ramirez was pouring coffee, joking about the Texas heat. Mark nodded silently and sipped. The phone blinked, a message from Lily. "How are you? Will you burn out? Will we take the contract to the dealer this evening?" He replied, "Yes, I'll stop by home after my shift and we'll go together. The dealer is still open at 8. The captain glanced at him over his mug. "Are you taking overtime again?" "Yes. We need to close the deposit for the warehouse and the first payment on the site. And the minivan without it, there is no point in delivering. Okay? Just don't push yourself. Not all projects are worth falling off your feet. This one is worth it. It's ours." The siren sounded at exactly 8:15. The call was routine. The smell of smoke from the apartment, a frying pan forgotten on the stove. Mark calmly checked the kitchen, opened the windows. The owner, an elderly woman, apologized and repeated that she was tired. He helped turn off the gas, checked the hood. On the way back, the guys discussed a barbecue on the weekend. Mark listened, but his thoughts were in another part of the city where he and Lily were supposed to sign a lease for a minivan for a studio. There were 2 more trips during the day, both without consequences. By 5 o'clock, the shift was over, and he went home. Lily was waiting in the hallway with a folder of documents. She was wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans, her hair pulled back into a ponytail. "Are we on time?" she asked. "We'll make it. Have you checked your insurance?" "Yes. The dealer has the package ready. All we have to do is sign and pick up the temporary numbers." They drove down Congress Avenue, and Lily told them about the studio. She spoke quickly, pausing for clarification. "The warehouse is in the south, near the interchange. Access is 24 hours. I negotiated a discount for the first month. The website is a separate story. A designer from Dallas has already sent a prototype. Can I see it?" Mark nodded. Her phone opened to a page with warm colors and photos of fabrics. The navigation was clear. "Nice," he said. "Just check the legal stuff. Return policy, turnaround times, personal information." "I thought you would help." "I'll help. It's easier for me to write in English dryly and straightforwardly." At the dealer, they were met by a manager named Chris. He spoke confidently, displayed numbers on the screen, and offered options. Mark did not argue, only asked, "What is the penalty for early termination? How does the service work? Where is the nearest service center?" Chris answered without irritation. The paperwork took half an hour, and then they were let out to a silver minivan. Lily smiled as she rarely smiled. "Thank you, Mark. I couldn't have done it without you." "We did it. Let's go for a ride and stop by the warehouse." The warehouse was on a street of low hangars that smelled of cardboard and cold metal. The manager handed over the keys and showed the combination lock. Lily put the boxes of fabric samples and cutting knives on the top shelves. Mark lifted the heavy rolls against the wall so they wouldn't get hit by the door. "Let's make a list right away. What's where," he said. "Otherwise you won't remember in a week." "I know where everything is," Lily replied, but she pulled out her notebook anyway. "But you're right. Let's write it down." They made a simple layout. Cotton on the left, wool and a mix on the right, packaging and stickers on the shelf by the entrance, and a cutting machine on the far shelf. Mark marked the box number and phone number on the door with a marker. "In case something happens and security calls," he explained. "I'll take care of the contracts with the suppliers, and you look at the exhibition deadlines." "You mean the spring one in Houston?" Lily perked up. "The curator has changed there now, but there is still space for young textile studios. I have already written to them. I am just waiting for an answer." Okay? When there are specifics, let's agree on who will close what. I don't want anything to hang in the balance. Certainly. They got home late. In the kitchen, Mark pulled a burrito out of a paper, added salsa, and put on the kettle. Lily turned on her laptop and opened the budget spreadsheet. The lines listed: warehouse deposit, lease, insurance, website, domain, advertising, materials, utilities. See, she said, I'm still having a hard time pulling off the ads. I'm not sure how much the Austin target costs. The girl from the agency says it's needed for at least 6 months. Let me close the first month, but we need to see the result. If not, we'll stop and change the strategy. Agree. He laid out the printouts in front of him. Here are the payments I've already made. This is not for presentation. This is so that we both can see the size. I understand, Lily replied quietly, and I appreciate it. Late in the evening, they went out onto a small balcony. Down in the yard, someone was fiddling with bicycles. In the sky, planes flashed, landing at the airport. Mark was tired, but the tiredness was even. Are you sure you want a studio and not work for someone else? He asked. The salary, the vacation, the insurance, everything is stable. I tried. I feel better when I decide what and how to sew myself. I want people to order bedspreads not from a catalog, but for themselves. Then we'll do it like adults. With contracts, deadlines, and reports, I'll help. The next day, Mark went to the station again. During the break, he called 2 fabric suppliers, clarified the terms of return, and wrote down the delivery dates. The intonation of the people on the other end was patient, but businesslike. He understood this language and was not shy about clarifying details. He liked that everything became concrete. 2 days later, Lily sent the address of the studio in the rented space. It was a small room with white walls and tables arranged. On one table stood an old but well-serviced overlocker. In the corner, a cardboard tube with patterns opened. Mark came after his shift, helped to fix the lamps above the work surfaces and screw a shelf under the boxes. In the evening, they discussed the site. Lily wanted to place a section with customer stories to show why she was making blankets for them. Mark suggested adding an application form with clear parameters: sizes, deadlines, type of fabric, budget. Won't that kill the atmosphere? Lily asked. No. It's easier for people when there are clear fields. It doesn't stop them from talking about the meaning of things. It just helps them not to get confused. On the weekend, they went to a friend's backyard. Grill, popcorn, kids in the pool with rubber rings. Lily talked about the studio, people listened, asked questions, wished her luck. Mark stood next to her and noticed how she became animated when she talked about patterns and fabric combinations. He was happy, and yet inside he kept a list. What documents were needed, which accounts to close first, where the risks were. It was calming. At night, he woke up from his habit of checking his phone. It was always like that at the station. There were no messages. He went to the kitchen, poured water, came back, and fell asleep. In the morning, Lily said that today she was meeting a photographer for the site and would stop by a small gallery that was looking for work from young people. Mark wished him luck and asked to send him a contract for using the photos. Were you born a lawyer? She chuckled. I just don't like surprises with image rights. Otherwise, do as you see fit. The week dragged on like a dense tape of tasks. Mark took another shift to cover the advance payment to the website designer. Lily drove between the studio, warehouse, and home, collecting samples, contacting the printing of labels. They did not have dinner together every day, but they tried to discuss what had been done and what was to come. Short points appeared in Mark's notes. Check the insurance on the minivan roadside assistance conditions. Check the delivery contract is their payment upon delivery. Print out a sign for the warehouse door. At the end of the week, they went to the bank to open a separate account for the studio. The employee explained what statements would be sent and how. Mark insisted that he had access to view, but not spend. That's more correct, he said. I participate, but I don't manage for you. I feel calmer this way, Lily replied. I don't really like numbers, but I understand that I can't do without them. When they left the bank, it was hot and noisy. Lily suggested going to a cafe. They sat by the window. I sometimes think we've gotten ourselves into too big a project, she said. What if it doesn't work out? Then we'll admit it and stop, Mark answered calmly. There's nothing wrong with that. But now it's working. We're moving. Thank you for believing. That evening, Mark drove Lily to the warehouse and helped her unload 2 more boxes. It was dark when he left. At home, he laid more printouts on the table, receipts and bills. He put an envelope on top. He wasn't going to show it. It was his way of keeping the facts in order. Monday brought new trifles. The website designer asked for additional payment for adaptation to mobile devices. Mark agreed, but specified the deadline. The courier company offered a tariff with a deferred payment, but with a commission. Lily wanted to try it. Mark suggested starting with prepayment so as not to get used to debt. They agreed to check in a month. By the end of the month, the studio looked like a workspace. Neat shelves, tags with article numbers, ordered boxes with the logo. Lily sent a selfie among the rolls of fabric. It showed the smile of a child who had built a house from construction sets. Mark responded with a heart and wrote, "Proud of you." That same day, he received a letter from work. There were few available shifts on the next schedule. He knew he had to count differently now. They sat down that evening with a spreadsheet. Mark cut out what he could close himself and cut the advertising budget in half for the first 2 weeks. Lily pursed her lips, but agreed. I won't be offended if you say you're tired, she said quietly. I'm tired, he answered honestly, but it's manageable fatigue. Let's continue this plan for another month. Then we'll see. They put the mugs in the sink. Lily pulled the first finished project out of the box, a simple geometric quilt. Mark ran his hand over the seams. The seams were even. To whom? To the neighbors downstairs. They asked for it for their anniversary. Beautiful. I hope they like it. The day off started at 9. Mark stopped at a hardware store for paint. The cart contained rollers, masking tape, sockets with covers for 2 USPs for the table where the machines would be. Lily sent a short message. Take a warm white, not clinical. The seller showed the color cards. Mark chose 2 samples and asked to mix small jars. The studio smelled of dust and cardboard. Lily had already taken down the tenants' old posters and wiped the walls. Let's check it on the strip, Mark suggested, and taped the square. One shade went gray, the other gave a soft light. The second one, Lily said confidently, he'll live in the photo. Okay, let's take it. They painted in silence. Lily worked quickly. Mark carefully traced the corners. In between, he unscrewed extra nails and took out the trash. After a couple of hours, the walls looked even. Lily stood in the center, looked around, and smiled. It already looks like a place where you can work. After lunch, Joe the electrician came in. He checked the panel and looked at the old sockets. For 4 machines and an iron, the line needs to be unloaded. I'll install 2 new points and a separate machine. I'll do everything tomorrow. Shall I send the estimate by email? Mark asked. I'll send it today. And don't forget about the towing stickers, Joe added. The inspection comes through this area often. Lily wrote down, stickers, exit plan. Mark noted, pay 50% down after estimate. He liked that everything was moving according to the checklist. Then it was down to the little things. They went to get transparent thread organizers, took knives for cutting and sheets of thick cardboard for patterns. In the packaging store, Mark asked about boxes for bedspreads. The manager showed 3 sizes. Lily chose the middle one and asked for a logo print. No expensive ribbons for now, said Mark. Let's keep it simple first. The box is the first thing the client sees, Lily countered. I don't want it to look cheap. I understand, but now we are counting each position. Compromise. No tapes, but with a neat sticker. Okay, with a sticker. That evening at home, they laid out the website templates on the table. Lily opened the About Us section and typed, I grew up in a family where fabric was in every closet. My name is Lily. Mark read it and said, fine. Add specifics, deadlines, basic sizes, price range, and a link to the return policy. Have we discussed the return yet? We will return the money if there is an obvious defect on our part. In other cases, repair or a discount on the next order. Terms 4-6 weeks if without complex patterns. I'll write it down. He sat down to formulate his own words. It was dry but clear. Payment, 50% advance payment, balance upon completion. Terms to be agreed in writing. Delivery courier in Austin or pickup from warehouse. Lily inserted this into the footer, aligned the indents, checked the links. A couple of days later, the electrician's estimate arrived, and Joe did the job in the morning. He showed the new machine and signed the act. Mark screwed a fire extinguisher on the wall by the door and pasted a diagram of the exit. Captain Ramirez, seeing the photo, sent a smiley and a line. Now you have 2 jobs in 1 photo. The first clients came from a neighbor's chat. A woman named Melanie wrote Lily a personal message. "It's my mom's anniversary. I want a bedspread made from my dad's shirts." Lily suggested meeting in a cafe. Mark went along, sat at a nearby table with a laptop and documents, but listened. "I don't know, is this even real?" Melanie asked, shaking at the word shirts. "We've had these for 5 years. "Really," Lily answered calmly. "We'll keep the pockets and buttons and keep the geometry simple so that the emphasis is on the fabric." "How much will it cost?" Lily named a figure lower than Mark considered base. He looked up. "With a 50% advance and a 6-week period," Lily added. "Okay," Melanie said. "It's important for me to meet the date." When Melanie left, Mark leaned over. "We discussed the basic price. This is a special order. Special does not mean free. Don't dump. You'll be sitting up all night." "I want to be the first to help," Lily answered quietly. "I don't mind helping. Let's at least record that this is a pilot and the discount is one time." They agreed. For the first 3 clients, a personal price, then a price list on the website. Mark returned to the laptop and sent Melanie an email with a short 1-page contract. Description of the order, terms, prepayment, permission to take a photo of the finished work with personal data closed. Signature via an electronic form. Then began the repair of small details. Lily moved the table closer to the window, hung a rail for tools, brought a kettle and mugs from home. Mark screwed on a holder for rolls. A tablet with an installed payment app appeared on the shelf. Mark connected it to a separate Wi-Fi. The fatigue set in at the end of the week when Mark had a double shift, a morning call-out to a minor garage fire, and then a training session for the new guys. He arrived at the studio at almost midnight to pick up the lists for tomorrow's deliveries, lay down for a minute on an empty box, and fell asleep. Lily woke him 10 minutes later and put a bottle of water next to him. "We can do without deliveries tomorrow," she said. "No, they promised to take the boxes to the warehouse. I'll do it in the morning." "You are stubborn. I am consistent." In the morning, he did indeed deliver the boxes, and also stopped by the fabric supplier on the outskirts to check the invoice and the deadlines. A manager named Diane said the shipment was 2 days late. Mark immediately sent Lily a message, 2 days late. Put it on the schedule. She replied, "Okay, I'll reschedule the cutting." He was reassured that they were acting without panic. Friends were dropping in more and more often. The neighbor from the 3rd floor came by, bringing coffee. Mark's colleague Pete came in, looked at the cars, and asked how much a bedspread for his son would cost. Mark stepped aside so Lily could talk about the price herself. It was her project. He just made sure the order was put in writing. At some point, Lily decided to shoot a short video for the website, How We Make Bedspreads. She called a local photographer and arranged for an evening. Mark wrote to him in advance and clarified who owned the rights to the photos and the video. The photographer did not object. "The rights remain with you. I receive a fee and the right to place 1 frame in the portfolio." Mark wrote this down in a letter. By mid-month, the studio was functioning like a normal small workshop. Lily checked patterns, selected threads, argued with herself at her desk, quieter but focused. Mark came in after his shift, fixed a sticky lock on the door, printed labels for boxes, and collected website statistics. The first requests were visible in the table. Emily baby blanket, Robert gift for wife, Melanie dad shirts. He made a simple summary, where the clients came from, how much time each step took. The different styles became increasingly clear. Lily loved improvisation and half-hour conversations with clients about the meaning of things. Mark loved it when each meeting ended with a contract and an advance payment. One day, he caught himself wanting to finish the conversation for her and name the price. He stopped. This was her field. They drove to a Sunday craft market. Lily set up a table, 2 samples, 3 photo albums, a flyer with a link to the website. Mark kept the minivan nearby to haul boxes and folding stands. People came up, asked questions, and touched the seams. An older couple from Georgetown left their number. A young father asked about a quilt made from college t-shirts. Lily took notes on her tablet. Mark stood behind, happy when he heard, "Give me your contact information." In the evening, they counted the results. There were no contracts, but there were 6 warm leads and 2 meetings next week. Lily tiredly laid her head on the table. "I thought it would be faster. It's normal. We're almost nobody yet. We've just started. I have ideas for stories and short posts. Okay? Just don't forget about working with your hands. Stories don't sew bedspreads." The next day, Lily brought a box of old shirts from Melanie. She laid each one out, marked where to leave a pocket, where to cut. Mark took a photo, the original, so that you can later attach it to the finished work before Easter. "You don't need to document it like that," Lily said. "This isn't the police." "This is not the police. This is protection from misunderstandings. The client sees how it was and how it is now. Okay? You've convinced me." Mark drove back to the station later that night. He stopped at a car wash on the way and quickly rinsed off the minivan. The habit of keeping his work clothes in order followed him everywhere. He thought about how everyone had a role in this story. Lily was leading people and choosing fabrics. He was assembling a framework of contracts and deadlines around him. He wanted it to work. At home, Lily wrote, "I'll finish the first block. I'll show it to you tomorrow." He replied, "Okay, I'll come after my shift." Before going to bed, he leafed through the budget table. The numbers were strict, but not frightening. In the advertising column, there was a balance for 2 weeks. In the materials column, an advance payment for the next batch. In the transportation column, there was gasoline and maintenance. The letter arrived in the studio's general mailbox in the morning. Lily forwarded it to Mark. "A small gallery in Austin is doing a textile show, curated by Nolan Parker. He says he saw my photos." Mark responded briefly, "Congratulations. Ask about the terms, percentage, installation, insurance." That same day, Lily was asked to meet at a cafe on the east side. Mark stopped by after his shift and sat at a nearby table with his laptop. Nolan arrived on time. He was wearing a dark jacket, neat shoes, and a short haircut. He spoke confidently, without fuss. "Lily, your covers are readable without explanation. That's rare," he said. "I would show 3 things to the group and take a couple of shots for the press release." "We already have a photographer," Lily replied. "We've made arrangements for next week." "Excellent. I'll give you a list of shots, a general shot, a detail of a seam, a portrait in a workshop. We need a clean background so that the editors will take it without any unnecessary questions." Lily nodded. Mark listened and jotted down notes. Percentage, commission, time frame, who pays for shipping and return. When the conversation turned to terms, Nolan said, "Standard, 40% commission from the gallery's sale. We install and print labels. The artist pays for the delivery there and back. We insure for the duration of the show." Mark raised his head. "Will you send the contract by mail?" "Sure," Nolan said. "And one more thing. There's a private screening in Houston next month. I can put Lily on the Young Writers program. There'll be collectors and a couple of hoteliers there." After the meeting, Lily was excited and focused. "He knows the market," she said in the car. "He speaks clearly and doesn't overpromise." "Okay," Mark replied. "Let's wait for the contract and look at the numbers. 40% is normal for galleries, but it's important for us not to go into the red." The contract arrived in the evening. The clauses were standard, but Mark noted two places. In case of a discount for the client, the gallery retains a commission from the full price and the right to use the photo of the bedspreads for PR without additional approval. He wrote comments to Lily and suggested asking for an edit. Lily forwarded it to Nolan. He responded politely, "I agree to a commission from the actual price. Photos only within the framework of the show and the gallery's social networks." The issue was resolved in a day. At the same time, Lily became more active on social media. The calendar began to show blocks for shooting, meeting with Nolan, and video for release. The phone was often lying face down. Mark noticed this and asked in the evening without pressure, "Are you changing your settings? You have message previews disabled." "Yes," said Lily. "The photographer asked that the flashes not be visible in the shots, and I feel calmer overall." "Okay, the main thing is that you are comfortable." The following week, Nolan came to the studio. He looked at the shelves, picked up a finished blanket, ran his fingers along the seam, tilted his head slightly. "Okay, I'd show that, plus 2 new ones," he said. "We'll call it The House in the South mini-series. Simple names work. Another tip, packaging. You need cards with the history of each item. People like to read where the pocket of a shirt went." "We have basic cards," Lily replied. "We can expand them." "And the price. Don't play the sales game. 15% higher. Otherwise, you'll be perceived as a decoration for a festival." Mark listened but did not argue. After Nolan left, he said, "Raise the price, increase the risk of cancellations. Let's test 2 products, and I'll make cards with the story in the template." "Agreed," Lily answered. The show preparations took 2 weeks. Lily worked in the evenings, marking progress on a spreadsheet. Mark printed labels, took blankets to lighting fittings, and brought them back. The to-do list was expanded to include mounts, soft gloves, catalog numbers. Nolan kept his replies short and to the point. Lily responded on time. Houston resurfaced. Nolan sent an invitation to a private screening and suggested that they go as a team. He, Lily, and a photographer. Mark suggested, "I can take you in a minivan and pick you up at night. I'm going that way anyway to study at the department." "Thank you," Lily replied. But Nolan said they'd go together and discuss the plan for the haul. "I'd be more comfortable in the same car." "Okay, then just remind them about the filming contract and check who will pay for gas and a hotel if you stay." Lily said that everything was included in the gallery's budget and showed the letter. Mark calmed down. On the day of departure, he was on shift. He wrote, "Have a good trip. Come back not too late." She replied, "I'll try. The schedule is tight." He came home late and went to bed. At 2 in the morning, he heard the door open. Lily came in quietly, put her bag down, took off her earrings, and closed her laptop. "Is everything okay?" he asked, sitting up. "Yes. We met with 2 curators, showed photos. Nolan agreed on a short slot in June. It's hellishly tiring, but it's worth it. I'm happy for you. Let's discuss what documents are needed tomorrow." The next day, Lily showed him the list. Press release, bio, technical specifications of the work, packaging for shipping. Mark added, "Insurance sheet, forwarder contact, backup tags." They looked at the calendar. There were blocks for Nolan meeting, general call with Houston, shooting. Lily's phone was face down again. When it vibrated, Lily put it in her bag. "Is there something urgent?" Mark asked. "No, I'll look later. There are chats in the gallery. They write non-stop." Mark nodded. He had a simple principle in mind. Don't overthink things. First the facts, then the conclusions. A couple of days later, Nolan came again. He brought samples of cardboard for signing the works and the requested layouts. The conversation proceeded at high speed. The deadline was burning. In the end, he said, "One more thing. For the press photo, we need a shot of Lily with the curator. Tomorrow at 5, we have an open studio. 15 minutes, and that's it." "Okay," Lily replied. "I'll set the table." Mark was supposed to be training schoolchildren at a nearby school. He had agreed on a time with Ramirez, but he still returned toward the end. At the studio door, he met Nolan and the photographer. They were laughing. Lily was standing by the window, smiling, her hands in her apron pockets. The photographer said, "That's it, we have the shot. Thank you." Mark came in, helped remove the light, screwed the stand. Nolan looked at him, nodded. "Are you Mark? I've heard. Lily has a good back office. That's rare." "I'm not in the back office," Mark answered calmly. "I'm the husband who helps with contracts." "Even more so," Nolan said. "It's easier this way." After they left, Lily turned on the kettle. "So how do you like him?" she asked. "Professional," Mark said, "and assertive. Make sure the terms are always in writing. And don't accept discounts on the spot alone. That's important." Fine. Everything was ready for the show. The opening went smoothly. Acquaintances, several journalists, and a couple of collectors came. Lily stood by the works, answered questions. Nolan led people from stand to stand, introduced them briefly and clearly. There were no sales, but they agreed on 2 meetings. Mark drove Lily home. She was silent in the car. At home, she said, "I want to raise prices." He was right. "And I want more time to promote." "Lift it. Just estimate how much you can sew without damage. And remember about delivery." It was a quiet shift at the station. The attendants were finishing pizza, and a baseball highlight was playing silently in the corner. Mark checked his gear, sat by the window with his tablet and a spreadsheet of the studio's expenses. At 9:30, he texted Lily, "How are you? Everything on track?" A minute later, she replied, "Long day. Another meeting, then dinner with the gallery team. Be back late." He typed, "Okay. Text me when you get home," and put the phone down. Captain Ramirez looked into the kitchen. "It's quiet today. Don't you feel like going home?" "I'm leaving early tomorrow," Mark replied. "I want to pick up supplies from the warehouse in the morning." "Are you sitting down to write papers again?" "Yes. I want to mix everything in the studio, to understand where we are." "Got it. But rest for at least an hour." By 11 o'clock, the guys had gone to bed. Mark stayed in the lounge, scrolling through the site reports. 3 requests from the market, 1 payment from Melanie, several new subscribers. He noted this in the spreadsheet and closed the laptop. The phone vibrated. It was Pete, the colleague from the station who had come into the studio. "Bro, you're out of the loop, but check this out. This is from a story, private viewing in Houston. I don't want to pry, but I think you should see it." And the caption, "Video from close friends." Mark pressed. A short clip opened on the screen. A room behind the stage, lots of people, music, glasses. The camera jumped, then stopped. In the frame, Lily and Nolan were standing at the bar. He leaned too close to her, talking right into her ear. She smiled, looked up. Their hands briefly touched. At the next transition, they were already standing by the wall, almost shoulder to shoulder. The clip ended. Pete immediately sent a second message. "Sorry, I hope this is just a work scene. But if anything happens, I'm with you." Mark didn't answer. He watched the video twice. On the second viewing, he looked not at the faces, but at the background. The bracelets on the guests, the logo on the wall, the time in the corner, 028. He thought about Lily's letter, "I'll be back late." He thought about the phone lying face down for a month. He put the device down on the table and stood up. He was used to acting on facts. He had few facts. Stories, late hours, working with a curator who liked eye contact. He didn't want to draw conclusions, but a conversation was needed. Not at 2 in the morning, based on messages. In the morning. He returned to the table and opened the studio folder. He took out the printouts. an advance payment for the website, a domain and hosting bill, a lease agreement for a minivan, a deposit for a warehouse, 2 invoices for fabric, an electrician's estimate, a payment for packaging. He added letters with the gallery terms and amendments to the commission. He folded them evenly and put them in a large envelope. On the envelope, he wrote with a marker, "Studio, payments and terms." Ramirez approached, apparently not sleeping. "Everything is fine." "Yes, I just need to talk to Lily in the morning." "Are you sure you want to discuss this before your shift?" "Yes. Let it be clean. We're clean in one direction." The captain nodded and left. Mark picked up his phone again. His fingers typed, "Where are you?" on their own, but he erased it. He put the phone in his uniform pocket and went out into the yard. There was a warm wind. He walked to the gate and back, letting his head cool down. When he returned, the phone blinked again. From Pete, "Call me back if needed." Mark replied, "Thanks. I'll talk in the morning." Pete gave him a thumbs up. At 2:30, a text came from Lily. "I'm home. Tired. I'll tell you tomorrow." No emoji, no details. Mark looked at the screen and folded the phone. He didn't write, "Okay." He didn't ask for a call. He lay down on the top bunk and closed his eyes. The dream was superficial. Work scenes were spinning in his head. The call, the hoses, the inspection, the report. Between them, that shot at the bar counter popped up. Mark continued to cling to the facts. He repeated to himself, "Video is not proof. Words are more important. Ask directly in the morning." At 6 o'clock, he got up, washed himself, and changed his clothes. In the kitchen, he put a large thermos of coffee for two. He put the envelope in his backpack. "Are you going home right away?" Ramirez asked. "Yes, I want traffic jams." "Good luck." On the way, he stopped at a 24-hour bakery and got 2 bagels. At a traffic light, he opened the video again. There, they were at the bar. They were hand in hand. He paused the video and put the phone away. If he started building scenes in his head, there would be no conversation. The house was quiet. Lily's bag was in the kitchen, with an empty earring box next to it. In the bedroom, she was sleeping on top of the bedspread, fully dressed. Mark put coffee and 2 bagels on the table, took out an envelope, and put it next to her so she could see it. He took a breath and wrote on a piece of paper, "I want to understand what's going on. I need clarity. Are we ready to talk?" He went into the bathroom, washed off the road dust, came back and sat down on the chair opposite. He didn't touch his phone. He didn't open his laptop. He just sat there and waited for Lily to wake up. 20 minutes later, she moved, turned, and raised herself up on her elbows. "Are you home yet?" she asked hoarsely. "Yes." "Why so early?" "We need to talk. I made coffee." She saw the envelope. Her gaze lingered. "What is this?" "Payments and contracts for the studio. Everything that I closed and that we talked about. I want us to speak the same language." Lily sat on the edge of the bed and ran her hand over her face. "Can we do it in an hour? I'm completely exhausted." "No. Better now. Short and without circles." "About what?" "About yesterday. About how our studio and relationships are organized. And about boundaries." She looked at him for a long time silently. "I'll wash up," she said finally. "I'll go back to the kitchen." He nodded. While she was gone, he put a sheet of paper with the following points next to the envelope. "Leasing my obligations, warehouse keys shared by both, website and domain order of transfer, couriers per payment only, gallery all discounts in writing." It was a regular order of things, but now these points were also the framework of the conversation. Lily returned a few minutes later. Her hair was pulled back, her face was tired. She sat down at the table and picked up a mug. "Speak," she said. Mark took a sip of coffee. "They sent me a video from the party, not from the public stories. There you and Nolan are standing very close. I don't jump to conclusions. I ask, what's going on?" Lily looked down. The seconds dragged by, quietly and viscously, like a line at the checkout counter. She took a breath and put down her mug. "I will answer. But first, can I tell you how it was? She looked straight ahead, without a hint of defense. I will answer. Mark nodded. Okay, I'm listening. Lily held her mug in both hands. Mark sat opposite her, the envelope lying between them. The table was clean, except for 2 plates with bagels and napkins. I'll tell you, she said. There was a private party after the screening in Houston. We stayed longer than we planned. There was noise, music, and a lot of people. Nolan was always around. We went out into the hallway where it was quieter. He hugged me. I didn't push him away. We kissed. Then, she paused and exhaled. It was a one-time thing. I know how that sounds. I was confused. I didn't mean to hurt you. Mark didn't interrupt. He looked at her calmly. When exactly? He asked. That night, when I returned at 2 o'clock. I came home and thought I would tell in the morning. But I was scared. And then everything went forward. Letters, preparation, filming. Is there something between you now? Correspondence, meetings not on business. He writes about work. I answer. Nothing personal. I deleted the personal messages. There were compliments. Nothing more. You understand that this doesn't fit into what we agreed on? Mark asked. We don't live in an open marriage. We don't have exceptions on occasion. I understand, Lily said. It's my fault. I'm not making excuses. I can leave this gallery. I can leave the project. We can go to a therapist. I need a break to sort this out. Mark opened the envelope, took out a stack of sheets of paper, and unfolded the first one. I'm not going to argue, he said quietly. I'm going to get this straight. Here are the payments I've made over the last few months. The minivan lease is in my name. The storage deposit is mine. The website designer is mine. The advertising is my advance. I did all this thinking we were in this together. I don't see together right now. I'm not ready to check your phones and wait for more explanations. So here's how it's going to be. He took a clean sheet of paper and began to write short lines, saying out loud, Minivan leasing cancel. I'll handle the request to the dealer today, clarify the fine and the return period. I'm taking the keys to the warehouse. Tomorrow we'll make an inventory of the property. I'll help pack it, but the decisions about the fate of the things are yours. I close the bills paid by me by the end of the month. There will be no new payments from my side. The domain and the site, I transfer them to you under the deed. Together, we will print out the cost estimate. Divorce no claims through a mediator. I'll find contacts, sign up for a consultation. I'll pay for the last month of warehouse rent so that you have time to remove the fabrics and equipment. Lily listened silently. Then she asked again, Are you really going to get a divorce now? Without therapy? Without a break? Yes, Mark replied. We both know what happened. I have no desire to live in a testing mode. I don't want to build control into our lives. I need a different order. She nodded, pursing her lips. I'd like to at least try, she said. I'm ready to close the studio, leave the gallery, cut all contact with Nolan. I'll see a consultant. I'm burned out. I thought the gallery was a chance. I'm confused and lost. I hear you, Mark said. But my line has already been drawn. We can formalize everything calmly and respectfully. Without scandals, without talking on social networks, without telling friends. I don't want to make a show out of this. I don't want to either, Lily said quietly. I know I'm guilty. I'm not asking you for a public apology. I'm asking you to give me time to clean up the mess. You'll have time, Mark nodded. I paid last month's rent. You have 30 days to move everything out of the warehouse. If you need physical help, just say so. Financially, no. She nodded again. She took the sheet of paper with the points, read it, and said, Let's clarify site. The domain and content are transferred to me, but the rights to the photos of us together in the workshop will remain outside of public use. I don't want there to be lies there. I agree, said Mark. I'll send the photographer a letter about removing our joint shot from the gallery's website, and I'll add a ban on using this shot in their press materials. Thank you, Lily said without looking up. Mark added at the bottom, Notify the gallery of the end of Mark's personal involvement in logistics and negotiations. I'll write to Nolan briefly and to the point, he said. No details. I'll say that all questions about the work are for you. No need to refer to me. And also, no deliveries on credit. This is your relationship with the suppliers. I'm removing my number for them. Understood. They fell silent. The stove clicked on the cooler. A garbage truck passed by the window. Where will you live? Lily asked without looking. At my brother's in Round Rock. I already talked to him last week. If you need it, he has a spare room. I'll move in today for a while. We'll change the locks on the apartment tomorrow. I'll pay for the repairman's work. Did you think of everything in advance? There was no reproach in Lily's voice, only a statement. I started making a plan after Houston. When I realized something was wrong, Mark said. But it finally happened today when you said it was a one-time thing. That's enough to know we should go our separate ways. Lily placed a box with their old warehouse keys in front of him. Take it, she said. I have copies. I'll bring everything in my name tomorrow. We'll make an inventory. I don't want any arguments. Okay, answered Mark. Let's do it today without a warehouse. Today we just agreed. I'll send letters to the dealer, suppliers, couriers, and galleries, and I'll find a mediator. Is it convenient for you to meet in a week? Yes, Lily nodded. If I may, I would also like to ask, not to tell colleagues and friends the details. Let's tell everyone that the divorce was a mutual decision. That's what we'll do, Mark said. It's our business. I'm not going to bring anyone up for discussion. She stood up, walked to the window, and sat down again. I know you're not screaming because you don't care, she said. You're holding on like that. It's scarier than if you'd made a scene. I don't need to scream to know what to do, Mark said. I chose an order for myself, not against you. I understand, Lily answered quietly. They sat down to make a list of things to inventory. Cars, tools, fabrics by article, packaging, office equipment. Mark suggested photographing the shelves and numbering the boxes. Lily agreed. They agreed to meet at the warehouse the following day at noon, lay everything out, and sign the act. And one more thing, Mark said at the end. I'm not going to pay this last month's rent like advance for a new stage, and as an opportunity for you to calmly take everything out. After that, I closed my participation. I wish you good luck, and that's enough. Thank you, Lily said. I don't know what will happen next, but I'll do everything I can to deal with the aftermath calmly. That's enough, he repeated. They cleared the table. Mark put the papers back in the envelope, leaving copies for her. He took a gym bag and put his clothes and personal items in it. In the bedroom, he took the watch off the nightstand and put the wedding photo in a box. He stopped at the exit. I'll write you the mediator's address and time, he said. If there's something urgent about logistics, write. The rest, through a lawyer or a mediator. That's the right thing to do. Okay, Lily replied. Take care. You too. In the morning, Mark woke up in his brother's room in Round Rock. The room was simple. A bed, a nightstand, a window overlooking the yard. Ben knocked and looked in. Coffee's in the kitchen. The house keys are on the hook by the door, he said. If anything happens, take my truck. Thanks. I can handle it in the minivan. I'll just return it to the dealer today. If you need it, tell me. I'm nearby. Mark took a quick shower and wrote Lily a short message. Meet me at the warehouse at noon, as agreed. She replied, I'll be there on time. The first call he made was to Chris, the dealer manager. I want to terminate the lease. I have a link to the contract, Mark said. I understand. Let me check the terms, Chris replied. You have 29 months left. The fine is fixed plus a condition inspection. Is the car clean? I washed it yesterday. The mileage is normal. Bring it today. I can schedule an appraisal by 3. Documents, license, insurance, contract. I will. Next, he called the courier service that Lily wanted to work with on credit. This is Mark Davis. Please close the possibility of shipments on my recommendations. Any deliveries only upon prepayment from the studio client. Got it, the operator said. I'll update your profile and send you a confirmation. And remove my number as a payment contact. Any questions should be directed to Lily Reed. I wrote it down. Then I wrote a letter to Diane, the fabric supplier. Please link all invoices and deadlines to Lily Reed's account only. I do not confirm new shipments and do not act as a guarantor. I will close old invoices by the end of the month. The response was a short, accepted. At work, he had one open recommendation left: a future collaboration between a city hotel and local artisans. Mark recruited a project manager. Alyssa, this is Mark. Remove my recommendation of Reed Studio from the list. The reasons are personal. I don't want to be referenced in materials. That's a shame, said Alyssa. We were counting on her bedspreads. The decision is final. Better this way than to drag it out. I understand. I'll update the documents. By midday, he arrived at the warehouse. Lily was already standing at the door with a notepad and marker. They opened the box, and it smelled of cardboard and new textiles. Mark took out his phone and turned on notes. Let's go down the rows, he said. I dictate, you write. Then we'll take a photo. They started with the machines. Overlock 1, in working condition, belongs to Lily. Sewing machine 2, both belong to Lily. Then came the tools, rolls of fabric by article number, packaging, organizers, a tablet for payments. Mark carefully removed shelves and boxes, putting a number on each box. Lily stuck on stickers. The computer for the site is yours, she said. I'll take the content onto a flash drive. Okay, I'll register the domain and hosting in your name today and send you the transfer certificate. An hour later, everything was numbered. Mark printed out the inventory report from his phone on a portable printer. He had stopped by the hardware store in advance and picked up the paper. They both signed it. I'll pay this month's rent, Mark reminded me. You'll return the keys to the manager when you've moved everything out. I'll make it, Lily said. I don't need help moving it. If you change your mind, right, I'll just come and move the boxes. Nothing more. On the way out, Lily handed him an envelope with receipts that were lying at her house. These are printouts of your payments. Keep them in one place. Thank you. They stood at the door of the box for a short pause. Will you have something to haul the boxes with after you return the minivan? She asked. Ben will provide a pickup. I can handle the logistics. They said goodbye and parted without further ado. At 3, Mark was at the dealer. Chris took out his tablet, walked over the car, noted a scratch on the bumper. This will go to consumables, he said. The total for the fine and the residual is here. I'll pay by card, Mark replied, and a printout of the termination by mail and on paper, please. Sure. Signed the odometer readings. Done. We're accepting the car today. The documents have been sent. In the parking lot, Mark took his things out of the car. First aid kit, gloves, charger. The bag became lighter. From the dealer, he went to a locksmith. A locksmith named Marcos arrived at their Austin apartment within an hour. A complete set, the master asked. Yes. New cylinder for the entrance, 3 keys. I'll do it in 20 minutes. He did. Mark checked the work, paid for it, and left 1 set of keys in the kitchen with a note. The new key is for you. Hide the old set in the drawer. He took a picture of them together from the wall, put it in a box, and placed it with the rest of Lily's things by the door of the storage room. He labeled each box in large letters: books, personal, tools, photo frames. He took nothing extra. In the evening letters, he wrote briefly to the gallery, "From today on, all questions about Lily's work only with her. I do not participate in logistics and negotiations. Please remove my contacts from the mailing list." Nolan replied 20 minutes later, "Accepted. With respect." No clarifications, no questions. Mark sent a message to the photographer prohibiting the use of their joint photo. "No problem," he replied. "I'll remove the shot from the selection and replace it. I'll send the invoice to Lily. There was another item in his inbox, a mediator. He found an office in downtown Austin, looked at the reviews, and called. Good evening. I would like to make an appointment for a consultation for a carefree divorce. Without arguments, said Mark. We work with cases like this, the administrator replied. The next window is Monday at 3. It will do. Write down 2 names. Send a confirmation letter to both addresses. In the evening, he stopped by the station to pick up his uniform and a few things from his locker. Pete met him at the entrance. Did you see my message? Pete asked. I saw it. Thank you for sending it. We had a conversation. Decisions were made. Do you need something? No, just work and order. Pete nodded, clapped him on the shoulder, but without any unnecessary friendly familiarity. Ben's house was quiet. There was a pot of chili on the table and a note that said, "Warm it up. Cold beer downstairs." Ben sat down across from him. How was your day? According to plan, answered Mark. I canceled the lease, notified the suppliers, removed the recommendation from the hotel, and made an inventory of the warehouse. Changed the locks. The mediator is for Monday. Fast. Better this way. They ate in silence. Then Ben asked, Are you angry or just empty? I don't want to get stuck, Mark said. I did what I had to. The rest will come around. If you want to talk, I'm here. I know. Thank you. Before going to bed, Mark opened his notebook and put check marks next to the items. All that was left was to close the ads and hosting, prepare the Domain Transfer Act, and notify the couriers again when Lily confirmed her accounts. He wrote to Lily, Mediator on Monday at 15 o'clock. The address and confirmation are in your mail. The answer came a couple of minutes later. Thank you. I'll be there. Mark turned off all reminders except for the letters from the mediator. No calls, no messages. He wrote to Lily in advance that he would only contact her on legal and technical issues and would do the rest through specialists. After that, the phone ceased to be the center of the day. Mornings began with a run around the block at Ben's, then a shower and the way to the station. At work, colleagues kept their distance. Pete once asked briefly, Are you okay? Yes. Thank you for sending it then. I'll take care of the rest myself. In the station's kitchen, everything was as usual. Coffee, conversations about shifts. Mark silently made notes in the log. If his thoughts wandered to the studio, he returned them to the list of work-related tasks. Checking hoses, emergency drill plan, duty schedule. On his first weekend, he taught a class for schoolchildren in the middle school gym. Rows of fire extinguishers, evacuation drill dummies. The kids took turns pulling the pin, pushing the lever, putting out the flames on the training tray. Mark kept it simple. Call 911 first. Use your palm, not the back of your hand. Breathe lower. He could see that the kids were getting the hang of it, and it made him feel like the day was under control. That evening, Ben cooked pasta and put a salad on the table. They ate in silence, then turned on the Spurs game. At halftime, Ben said, My mom called me. She asked how you were. I said that everything was calm. Thank you. That's right. He didn't tell me that sometimes he woke up at night and remembered the kitchen table, the envelope, Lily's words. He didn't think about how it would be more correct to react. He had already chosen silence and order. On the third day, Vanessa, their mutual friend and owner of a small cafe where Lily met with Melanie, called. Mark, I'm not butting in, just some info. A gallery employee came to see me. She said they were reformatting the show. The room where textile works were supposed to be was changed to mixes. The budget for catalogs was cut. I thought you'd know better. Thank you. I am not familiar with the project. All questions about the work should be addressed to Lily, he replied. I understand. I was just pointing it out. He hung up and did nothing. He didn't write to Lily. The gallery was her zone. A day later, an email arrived from the courier service. No personal details, just an automatic template. Your payment policy has been updated. Deferred shipments are no longer available. The studio read account request has been rejected due to lack of prepayment. At the bottom, the standard, you are receiving this email because you were previously the contact. Mark clicked unsubscribe and deleted the email. At the station, Pete brought a printout of the training schedule. In the hallway, they met their garage neighbor, Trevor, who was working on a delivery. I heard your studio had some dealings with our office, Trevor said. We don't do on credit anymore. Don't be offended, it's not your fault. It's clear, Mark answered briefly. This is the right decision. Mark stopped by the warehouse late in the week. Not inside, just passing by on his way to run errands. The parking lot was empty. He called the manager to check on last month's payment. It's in, he replied. It's quiet in the garage. The keys haven't been handed in yet. Good. Remind Lily that the act of handing over the keys must be on site with a timestamp. I will do it. That same evening, Julie, an artist they had met at the craft market, called. I was at the opening in Houston, she said. I saw Nolan with his wife. Honestly, I thought he was single. He showed up with his wife and told someone, it's a long way home. I don't know if that matters to you. Just be careful with galleries. Thanks, Julie. I don't work with the gallery, but I get it. It didn't surprise him that Nolan had a family. He didn't care. It didn't change his mind. He stopped checking feeds and turned off social media notifications. If friends sent him something about exhibitions, he would reply, thank you, and not open it. He only checked the mail from the mediator. It was on schedule, consent form, list of assets, preliminary meeting date. The questions were simple. Mark answered quickly without comment. The service was going on as usual. On one call, they helped a man with carbon monoxide poisoning from a faulty generator. Mark talked to him on the porch and thought about the spreadsheets, what exactly to change so that it wouldn't happen again. He took the same approach to his life. Ben sometimes tried to ask carefully, have you seen Lily? No. Will you see? At a meeting with a mediator, yes. Otherwise, no. Okay? On the 10th day, he stopped at a hardware store to buy some light bulbs. The saleswoman recognized him. You took thread organizers from us. How is the studio? The studio is going its own way, Mark said. I'm not helping anymore. I see. Well, if you need anything electrical, come by. On Saturday, he went to the morning market. Lily was not there. In her place stood a ceramicist selling cups, talking to customers. It was quiet. Mark bought bread and honey and returned to the car. At the end of 2 weeks, Pete wrote again. How are you? Mark replied. Fine. Divorce is going well. Thanks for the support. The mediator sent a summons for the next meeting, clarified the list of documents, confirmation of rent payment, transfer acts, extracts. Mark collected the folder, put a printout of the lease termination and a letter from the courier in it. On Sunday, Ben took him for a run along the river path. They ran in silence. On the way back, they sat down on a bench. Ben said, 2 weeks is when people usually start calling. If you think, what if, that's okay. Just know you're not alone. I'm not going to call, Mark said. We've already said everything. Cold. That same evening, Vanessa wrote again. Sorry about the gallery again. They changed the posters. Lily is no longer in the central hall. She remains on the stand with the group. There will be no printed catalogs. Mark replied, accepted. He noticed that in 2 weeks his apartment at Ben's had become like his own. He had a separate shelf for his uniform, a container for shoes, a couple of hooks by the door for keys. He cooked a simple dinner, put away containers for tomorrow. He added a reminder to his phone about paying the utilities for his share. There was an envelope in the mailbox from the car insurance company, a standard notice of termination of the policy upon return of the car. Mark put it in a folder. He liked it when documents were organized by topic. It had been raining since morning and showed no signs of stopping. There was a puddle by Ben's front porch, water running down the steps. Mark came back from his run, took his sneakers off by the door, put the kettle on. The plan for the evening was simple. sort out the paperwork for the mediators' meeting, call the captain about the training schedule for next week. At 6 o'clock in the evening, someone knocked. Ben looked out of the living room. You. Lily was standing on the porch. Her coat was dark, her hood was wet. In her hands was a small cardboard box tied with twine. "Hi," she said. "Can I speak for a minute?" "Come in," Mark replied. "Leave your shoes by the door. The rug is wet." They walked into the kitchen. Ben nodded silently and went into his room. Lily put the box on the table and sat down, still wearing her coat. "These are yours," she said, pushing the box toward him. "Letters, cards, and that wooden keychain. I found it in my drawer. It's not right for me to keep them." Mark opened the lid. Inside was a bunch of old postcards, some envelopes, and a small key with their first initials burned into it. He closed the box and set it down. "Thank you for bringing it," he said. "Tea?" "Yes, if possible." He poured her a mug and himself one too. The rain was pattering on the windowsill, and in the hallway drops were falling from his raincoat onto the rug. They were silent for a while, drinking hot drinks. "I want to ask you to talk," Lily said. "Without pressure, but honestly. I understand that I crossed boundaries. I understand that you made a decision. I still want to tell you." "Go ahead," Mark nodded. "I want to fix everything. I'm ready to close the studio, stop working with the gallery, and remove Nolan from my life. I'm ready to go to a consultant, to a family therapist, to whomever you tell me. I'm ready to go somewhere for a month if I need a break. Tell me what's needed, and I'll do it." Mark held his palms on the mug, looking at her face. She looked tired, but collected. "We should have talked about this earlier," he said calmly. "Before we got to this table, to the mediator, to change the locks. I'm not ready to go back to the mode of checks, suspicions, and reports. We're parting on good terms. That's already been decided." Lily nodded, looking down at the table. The pause was short. "I understand," she said. "But can I at least ask, what's stopping you from trying? I'm not looking for excuses. I want to understand." "There's a simple thing that's holding me back," Mark said. "I don't want to live in a system where I have to think about who's texting you at night and why my phone is lying face down. I choose to live without that. I'm not angry. I just don't want to." "If we had gone to the therapist 3 weeks ago," Lily said, "do you think it would have made a difference?" "I don't know," Mark replied, "but it's too late now. I don't want to build a new system on top of the old one at the expense of constant testing. I can respect you from a distance. That's the most I can do." She nodded again and took a small notebook out of her pocket. "Then let's close the practical part," she said in a businesslike tone, as if she had switched over. "I'll take everything out of the warehouse by the end of the week. I'll call the manager tomorrow. We'll sign the deed on the spot. I'll hand over the keys. The site and domain, you'll hand them over according to the deed as you wrote. I've already changed the contacts for the couriers everywhere. I've stopped advertising. The schedule for the show in Austin has been canceled. I won't go to Houston. I wrote to Nolan that I'm leaving the project. He replied, 'Sorry,' and nothing more." "Okay," Mark said. "If you need physical help moving boxes, right? I'll come. More than that, no." "Understood." She looked straight at him. "I know it's pointless to ask," she said a little more quietly, "but I will say, I'm sorry. I did something bad. I didn't handle the situation and myself. I'm not asking for forgiveness to come back. I need to say it out loud." "I hear you," Mark said. "Thank you for telling me. I have no complaints, you know that. We'll work it out with a mediator and go our separate ways. I paid last month's rent so you'd have time. From here, it's your turn." "I've already found a room in Santa Fe for a while," Lily said suddenly. "There are fairs where you can stand without a gallery. I'll go as soon as I get everything out. Not because I'm running away, because I have to work." "It's your decision," Mark nodded. "I don't mind." "If you don't mind," she added, "I'll keep the site. The logo too. You wrote that down in the deeds. And everything will pass to you." Silence again. A taxi passed by the window, its headlights skimming the puddles. Lily tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Are you talking to someone right now?" she asked cautiously. "That's not the subject of the conversation," Mark answered calmly. "We're solving our issues. The rest is unimportant." "I understand," Lily nodded. "Sorry." He stood up, took some paper towels out of the kitchen drawer, and handed them to her to dry her sleeves. "Come on, I'll take you there," he said. "The rain has gotten heavier." They went out onto the porch. Mark took an umbrella, covered her up on the sidewalk. Lily pressed a button on her phone and ordered a car. They stood in silence, listening to the water hit the asphalt. "Mark, if you change your mind in 6 months," she began. "No," he interrupted softly. "I won't change my mind. I want to live without this story. It's not anger. It's a choice." She nodded. The headlights came closer. The taxi stopped at the curb. "Thank you for the umbrella," Lily said, "and for not making a scene. I feel better now that we're talking calmly." "Me too," Mark said. "Take care." She got into the car. He held the door, waited for her to fasten her seat belt. The car started moving and drove away. Mark stood in the rain for another minute, then returned to the house, shook his umbrella at the threshold. Ben looked out of the room. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "It's fine," Mark said. "She brought my letters. We agreed on the warehouse and the site. The rest is unchanged." "Fine." Mark put the box on the top shelf of the cabinet. He took out the folder with the documents and checked the list for the meeting with the mediator. Inventory Act, termination of lease, confirmation of rent payment, letter on removal of contacts. Everything was in place. He turned on the light above the table, sent the mediator a letter to clarify the time, and set the alarm. The rain outside did not bother him. He felt that the evening had passed smoothly, without harsh words, without attempts to return to the old ways. Before going to bed, he wrote a short message to Lily. "Did the taxi get there?" The answer came a couple of minutes later. "Yes, thank you." That was the end of the correspondence. The mediator's office was in a one-story building next to a park. The lobby smelled of coffee. On the wall was a Travis County court calendar and a sign that read, "No contest divorce procedure." Mark arrived on time, sat down on the couch, and placed a folder of papers next to him. Lily walked in a few minutes later, nodded, and sat on the edge of the couch. They greeted each other briefly. The office door opened. A woman of about 50 in a simple jacket introduced herself. "I'm Karen Harper, a licensed mediator. In short, my job is to help you draft an agreement that's easy for the court to approve. No wins or losses, just agreements. Ready?" "Yes," Mark said. "Ready," Lily said. They walked into a room with a round table. Karen placed a thin folder in front of each of them. "Here's a template agreement. Texas has a 60-day waiting period from filing, but if everything is clear, you can sign today and the court will issue the final decree later. We'll go through the sections: property, accounts, vehicles, business assets, digital assets, liabilities, alimony if any are needed at all, and closing clauses." Mark nodded and pulled out his folder with transfer acts. "Let's start with the property," Karen said. "Do you share an apartment?" "The apartment is rented. The lease is in my name," Mark replied. "I've already moved out. Lily is staying until the end of the month. Then it's up to the landlord and me." "Let's fix it," Karen said and typed a line. "A deposit for an apartment." "There's no deposit," Lily said. "There was only the last month in advance." "Good. Next, transport." "The lease on the minivan has been canceled," Mark said, putting down a copy of the dealer's letter. "The fine and balance have been paid by me. No claims." Karen filed the copy. "Business assets. Studio, website, domain, equipment, materials. Who what?" Lily pulled out her list. "All the machines, tools, fabrics, and packaging are mine. We made an inventory with the status of each item. Here is the act with the signature." She handed over the sheet. "Mark paid for the last month of warehouse rent. I undertake to remove everything on time and hand over the keys. I confirm, Mark said. Website and domain, Karen asked. The domain and hosting are going to Lily, Mark replied. Here's the transfer confirmation from the registrar and the act of transferring admin access. The photo of us both has a restriction. Do not use it in public materials without my written consent. Let's write, joint images only by mutual written consent. Karen added a clause. Studio social networks. They remain with Lily, said Mark. I have been removed as an administrator. Financial obligations, Karen continued. Supplier invoices, couriers, advertising. Everything I've paid for up to today, I'm closing myself, Mark said. There will be no new payments on my part. All future obligations are Lily's zone. Couriers have been switched to prepayment. My contacts have been removed. Recorded, Karen nodded. Income, loans between you. We don't have loans to each other, Mark replied, and I don't require compensation for my investment in the studio. Lily looked up. I confirm. I make no claims to his property and accounts. Karen looked at them carefully. Alimony for your wife? She asked neutrally. No need, said Lily. I'm working and I can handle it. Then we'll write a waiver of mutual alimony, Karen said. Then there are important stipulations. No claims for past payments, no mutual accusations, and an obligation not to publicly denigrate each other. Agreed. Yes, Mark said. I agree, Lily nodded. Karen turned the page. There are still questions about the gallery, image rights, and mentions in publications. The gallery deals directly with me, Lily said. Mark is not involved or listed as a contact. And the photographer? Karen asked. I received a letter about filming a joint shot. He agreed, Mark said. Karen typed quickly. Now the procedure. I sent the package to the court. Original petition for divorce, waiver of service, mediated settlement agreement. Signatures today, notarized confirmation we have on site. In 60 days, the court will sign the final decree. If the court suddenly needs clarifications, I will contact you. She laid out signature sheets in front of them. Now for something that is rarely done without, Karen said more softly. Everyone will have the right to a short closing remark. Not a legal one, but a human one. It's not a mandatory part, but it often helps. Do you want it? Mark looked at Lily. I will, he said. I appreciate the honest conversation in the kitchen. I stand by my decision and wish you to handle things calmly. On my part, no stories on social media, no calls to third parties. We close this respectfully. Lily nodded. I'll say the same. I'm guilty. I'm grateful that we're doing this without a scandal. I'll take everything out of the warehouse, close my obligations, and then I'll be on my own. I ask your permission to write to you one day if I only need to formally confirm some document. Write if it's purely technical, Mark replied. Best by mail. Karen moved her hands towards them. We sign. Here, here, and on the last page initials. They signed. The notary from the next room came in, checked the IDs, and put stamps. It's done, Karen said. I'll send the package to the office today. You'll receive an electronic confirmation. If you'd like to receive a paper copy of the final decree by mail, check the box. She pointed to a line on the form. Mark checked the box. Lily did too. The last thing, Karen looked at them carefully. You already observe no contacts except business ones. Maintain this regime until the final decree. Usually, it helps to live through the waiting period smoothly. That's what we do, Mark said. They walked out into the hall. Lily stopped at the water counter. Thank you for paying for the last month of storage, she said. I'll have time to move it out sooner, but I'd be nervous myself. I didn't pay it as an advance, Mark replied. But it's time to finish without fuss. After that, everyone is on their own. Understand. They walked down the steps to the parking lot. There was a warm breeze. Cars were parked in a row. People were coming out of nearby offices. If you want to take anything else from the house, let me know, Lily said. I'll leave it with security. I have everything that belongs to me, Mark replied. I left a new key and a note for you in the kitchen. I put the old things in boxes by the warehouse door. I signed each one. I saw it. Everything is neat. They exchanged brief nods. No hugs, no pauses for, what if? Take care, Lily, Mark said. And you, she replied. Mark got into Ben's pickup, started it, and drove towards the station. On the way, he stopped at the bank, closed the additional card linked to the studio's advertising account, printed out a statement for the folder. A letter from Karen arrived on his phone. The package has been submitted. Waiting for 60 days. If everything is as is, the final decree will be ready on the appointed date. In the evening, he sent out the last official letters, to suppliers about the closure of his contact, to the courier's confirmation of the prepayment mode, to the registrar the final notification of the domain transfer. There was one line left in the to-do list, confirmation of delivery of keys to the warehouse. He set a reminder for the end of the week. Ben came back late. How did it go? He asked. Calm down. We signed. Now comes the automatic part. Do you want to have dinner at home or go get a burrito? At home. I want a quiet evening. The alarm went off at 6. Mark would go for a jog around Ben's block, come back 40 minutes later, put on the oatmeal, turn on the coffee maker. The phone was sitting face up on the table with no notifications. The reminder list included work tasks and one personal item. Check email from Mediator in 2 weeks. At the station, the day began with a vehicle inspection. Captain Ramirez posted the new training schedule. Mark, there's a course for young volunteers on Thursday. Can you take the on-site command block? I'd take initial assessment and evacuation, he replied. They need that more. Agreed. There were a few trips, a short smoke event in the workshop, a false alarm in the supermarket. On the way back, the guys argued about the Spurs game, and Mark wrote down his thoughts on the volunteer program. An exit search simulator, a scenario for a school classroom, role-playing phrases for a group leader. After his shift, he would stop at the corner grocery store. The cashier, Mrs. Barkley, knew him by the nickname Fireman Mark. I haven't seen your wife for a long time, she said between punching in checks. We are not together anymore, he answered calmly. Got it. Take care of yourself. The coffee discount is valid today. Thank you. It was quiet at Ben's house. Ben was fixing an old bicycle in the garage. Will you come to the safety fair with me on Saturday? The city asked for a pamphlet table, he said. I'll go. I'll bring a mannequin and fire extinguishers. That evening, Mark sat down at his desk and put together a plan for the volunteers, a short lecture, a demonstration, and practice at the stations. At the bottom, he wrote, no flashy tricks, just something a person will remember under stress. He sent the plan to the school district coordinator. The response was, great, you'll be joined by a mentor from a local school, a physics teacher. We'll confirm the name tomorrow. Lily's letter arrived at 9 in the evening. Handed over the keys to the warehouse, act attached. Thank you for the last month of rent. Moved out the things. Mark replied, received, good luck. That was the end of the correspondence. On Saturday, he and Ben set up a table at the entrance to the mall. Posters reading Home Escape Plan, brochures in 2 languages, a kid's helmet, and a small fire extinguisher simulator on the table. People came up to ask questions. How much time do you have to leave the house if there is smoke in the hallway? Asked a middle-aged man. Minutes, Mark replied. Keep the door closed, breathe more deeply, go to the window if the corridor is pitch black. Check if the child knows how to get out on his own. A woman from their neighbor's chat came up. I saw Lily on social media. She's moving. Did you know? She asked. I know, said Mark. Let's talk about the evacuation. Do you have a plan drawn up? No. Take a sheet of paper. Draw rooms and 2 exits from each. Hang it in the refrigerator tonight. During the day, Mark stopped by the high school gymnasium, where he was supposed to hold a volunteer course. The principal showed him around the gym and the adjacent classrooms. You can set up a smoke tent near the emergency exit, she said. Thank you. We need access to an electrical outlet and a bucket of sand, he replied. Already in the car, he saw an unanswered call from Julie at the craft market. He called back. I'm not talking about business, she said. I'm just saying, a gallery in Houston has closed its textile section. I don't know why. If you don't like hearing that, I'm sorry. It's okay, Mark said. Thank you. This isn't my field anymore. On Monday morning, he got a reply from the coordinator, mentor from school Samantha Lee, physics. Will be in all classes, will help with experiments on smoke and air movement. Mark noted in the plans, check equipment with teacher, agree on safety. The name meant nothing to him. He did not think further. The station lived its own rhythm. During one of the training sessions, Mark practiced the 2-minute assembly with the recruits, clearly without shouting. First, a breath test, then a connection, then an instrument. Don't run, he repeated. Speed is the absence of unnecessary movements. The boys watched attentively. At the end of the training, Pete came up. How are you? Exactly, Mark answered. There's a plan, there's work. If you need a change, tell me. I'll cover for you. Thank you. I'm coping for now. In the evening, Ben brought an old console. Do you want to take a break? Let's play. We'd better cook up some chili for 3 days and clear out the closet in the garage, Mark said. Organization helps me. They sorted through toolboxes, took out the trash, and labeled the boxes. It took an hour and a half and brought a peace of mind that Mark appreciated. On the weekend, Mark went to a trail by the river. It was noisy. Dogs, runners, musicians by the bridge. He stopped by the water and stretched. Next to him, a man was talking on the phone about a divorce and dividing up furniture. Mark heard a few phrases and walked away. He didn't want to live other people's stories. On Monday, before the volunteer class, Mark walked into the physics classroom. The tables were empty, and on the windowsill were flasks and a fan. He checked the outlets, opened the windows, and walked the entry demonstration exit route. He printed out cards with short phrases for the team. I am the leader. You call 911. Check the door. Hold the line. He liked things he could hold in his hands and quickly understand. At lunchtime, I stopped at a small diner on the corner. The owner, Louis, poured soup and put an extra spoonful of rice on top. You've lost weight, he said. Is everything okay? I'm fine, Mark replied. I've been quiet longer than usual. That's what it seems. If you want, come in the evening. It gets loud here, but it's a good volume. Thank you. I'll look at the schedule. At home, he took the letters Lily had brought in the rain out of the box. He looked at the wooden key. He returned everything to the box and called his mother. I won't go into details, he said. We're getting a divorce. The papers have been filed. You're keeping calm, she said. Come over for lunch this weekend. Don't talk, just eat. I'll come. On Wednesday evening, he met with the volunteer coordinator and 2 seniors who were team captains. They discussed how to run the training. We don't just want the guys to listen, one captain said. We're willing to lead small teams. Okay, Mark said. Here are the cards. Run the teams through the route, and I'll watch and correct them. Afterwards, a short debriefing. No reproaches. The middle school gym smelled of rubber and air freshener. Mark was early, opened the emergency exit doors, checked the fire extinguishers. There were short roll cards on the table. Leader, call 911, open windows, check doors. He set up a portable fan near the smoke tent, a plastic hallway used for training. A woman in a dark blue cardigan looked into the physics classroom. Are you Mark? I'm Samantha Lee, the physics teacher. The coordinator wrote that you would take the evacuation unit, she said, and smiled briefly in a businesslike manner. Yes, nice to meet you. We need a more powerful fan and an extension cord, and a bowl of sand, just in case. I have a lab fan and 3 extension cords, she replied. I'll get some sand from the chemistry room. I'll be back in a minute. She returned with a cart. A fan, extension cords, gloves, blue tape for marking. She moved without fuss, did everything the first time Mark liked that. I'll arrange the airflow so the kids can see the smoke moving toward the exit, Samantha said. We won't say formulas. We'll just say, head down, bigger visible area. Great, Mark nodded. My part is roles and short commands. I want them to say the phrases out loud. The students began to pull themselves up in groups. The team captains received cards and tried on vests. Mark lined the children up at the entrance to the tent. The rules are simple, he said. First, the leader. He's not a hero. He counts people and tells us where we're going. The second one dials 911. The third one checks the doors with the back of his hand. Inside, breathe low, don't run. Ready. Samantha turned on the fan, slightly lifted the side of the tent so that the smoke came out in a strip. It became foggy inside, but not scary. The first team went through the route, walked in a chain. Someone tried to talk and got lost. Mark stopped, repeated short phrases. On the second run, the guys started to succeed. One of the senior students asked, "Why test the door with your palm and not with your palm from above? What's the difference?" "To avoid grabbing a hot handle with your fingers and losing the ability to hold the tool," Mark replied. "And because there's less risk of getting burned. A simple gesture, and you have a better chance of continuing to move." Samantha added, "And one more thing. When you open the door towards yourself, keep your body away. In fog, the sense of distance is deceiving. Let the air out, and then step." The third attempt went perfectly. Mark stopped the flow, invited everyone into the classroom for a short debriefing. "What was difficult?" he asked. "Stop talking," admitted the girl in the baseball cap. "I wanted to explain to everyone." "Remember this feeling," Mark said. "In a stressful situation, people talk a lot. The leader's job is to economize on words." After class, Samantha was pouring water in the teacher's lounge. "I haven't seen children do something unusual so calmly for a long time," she said. "You speak simply and to the point." "I practice this myself," Mark replied. "People remember short and specific things." The coordinator approached them and offered to take a photo for the district report. They stood at the stand with posters and smiled without unnecessary expression. "I have robotics class on Friday," Samantha said after the facilitator had left. "We solder sometimes. Want to come by for 10 minutes and talk about basic shop safety?" "I can. I'll bring glasses and gloves and show you how to set up the tables." Agreed. At 5 o'clock, office 214. Samantha lingered in the parking lot. "Have you had lunch? There's a taco truck around the corner. We could grab a quick burrito and talk about Friday," she suggested. "Let's go," said Mark. "I'm going to the station through this block anyway." There was a short line at the van. A young guy was working behind the counter, frying chicken with peppers. They each got a burrito and sat at a metal table under the awning. "How long have you been teaching this course to volunteers?" Samantha asked. "Several years. Now we are recruiting guys again after the pandemic," Mark answered. "Your physics helps. When kids understand how air moves, there is less panic. I try to connect science to everyday life. Otherwise, it stays on paper," she said, breaking off the edge of her burrito. "Do you have children?" "No," Mark said. "And I recently got divorced. The papers are in court. No scandals." "I understand," she nodded. "Thank you for being so direct. I don't like guessing what's going on with someone." He noticed that she didn't need details. That was fine. "If my topic is too personal for you, just tell me," Samantha added. "I don't want to intrude on anything you're not ready to discuss." "It's all right," Mark said. "I'm talking about the facts. The rest is not up for discussion." They got down to business. A list of supplies for the Friday club, a seating plan, where to put the fire extinguisher, and where to store the flux. "Be careful with the gumboil," Mark said. "Give the children no-frills gloves and explain why we're not touching their faces." "I'll make a one-page reminder and put it up at the entrance," Samantha replied. Do you mind if I cite the fire department? No problem. Just without my personal contacts, a general station number would be better. Let's do that. As she said goodbye, she handed over a school business card with her name and number. Here's my work phone. Write if anything changes, she said. Here's my work number, Mark replied. I try not to give out my personal number for work matters. Convenient. I divide it that way too. On Friday, Mark came into room 214. There were boards, wires, and small screwdrivers on the tables. The 10th graders were milling around, arguing about how to attach the robot's wheel. Samantha laid out the safety glasses and opened the window. Friends, we have a guest, she said. Mark will talk about safety for 5 minutes, then you can continue. Mark didn't drag it out. How to sit at the table, where to keep the hair dryer, why not to pull the extension cord across the aisle, what to say if something went wrong. He showed how to hold a fire extinguisher, let 2 guys practice on a dummy. And one more thing, he said at the end. If you're tired and your hands are shaking, put the instrument down. That's not a weakness, that's maturity. After the circle, Samantha walked him to the door. You put it into short sentences. It works, she said. I have a time meeting scheduled, then I'm home. If you ever want to grab a morning coffee, there's a little bakery nearby that I've been to before school. No plans, just coffee. You can, Mark answered. I run in the mornings, sometimes I'm free at 7. Then write when it's convenient. I'm not imposing myself. He smiled. It was not a promise, nor an attempt to outline the future. It was simply an agreement for a short meeting. That evening, he went to Ben's house, laid out new volunteer cards on the table, and updated the plan. His phone vibrated a message from Samantha. Thanks for your help. The kids were less fussy after your block. The bakery opens at 6:30. If you have a window on Monday, I'll be there from 7 o'clock to 7:20. Mark replied, I can. I'll stop by for 10 minutes. He walked into the bakery early on Monday. Cinnamon rolls were on display, and a barista in a baseball cap was behind the counter. Samantha sat by the window with a paper cup and a folder. Physics problems were printed out on the table. Good morning, she said. I'll have a regular filter coffee. Me too, said Mark. I have a shift later. They talked about school, about how hard it is to get high school students to volunteer, about the lack of mentors for the younger grades in the area. Mark said he could come in for a quick 15-minute chat sometimes. Samantha didn't make a graph medal. When you can, write a day in advance, she said. I'll adjust the topic. Before leaving, she asked, Mark, do you mind if I say this? You look like you're constantly calculating something in your head. Does that help you keep going? It helps. When there's a lot of specificity in life, there's less room for unnecessary thoughts, he replied. I respect that, she said. Thank you for being honest. Sunday lunch at Mom's passed quietly. There were stewed beans, corn, and bread on the table. Mom asked without unnecessary caution. How are things going with you? Normal. Work, training, a little school, answered Mark. The papers are at the court. We are waiting for the date. I see. My aunt wrote to me from New Mexico. She said there are a lot of craft fairs in Santa Fe now. If Lily goes there, she will have a field to work there. She's already left, Mark said. She's rented a room, getting ready for the fairs. We don't discuss details. But thank you. Mom nodded. No advice, no comparisons. After lunch, she and Ben loaded a box of fire cans and a set of posters into the pickup. Mark took it to school for the next lesson. On Monday, a short letter arrived from Lily. I've moved to Santa Fe. I've rented a room for a month. I'm going to the fairs. I've applied for the Saturday market. I've attached the address for the final letter. Thank you for your share of the rent. I've moved everything out. Mark replied, Got it. Good luck. He didn't add anything else. That same day, Vanessa sent a message. I saw a photo of Lilia's work desk in her account, without posing. She writes about the budget and purchasing plan. She removed the pay later ad. It seems she is changing her approach. It's good that it changes, Mark replied. Thanks for telling me. I don't follow. At school, Mark met Samantha. They were setting up tables for the next class. Do you know anyone in Santa Fe? She asked casually. My aunt lives there. She told me about the craft markets, Mark said. I read that they have lectures for artists about copyright. Volunteer lawyers explain how to protect drawings and photographs, Samantha said. If Lily goes there, it will help her. Someone I know tagged her in a lecture like that on her feed, Mark said. It seems like she's already been there. After the lesson, Mark wrote down a plan for the city's safety fair in his notebook. A stand, timing of mini lectures, a list of questions for residents of private houses. He wasn't going to turn it into to himself, but the work went easier when the tasks were in lines. Julie called on Tuesday. I'm in New Mexico visiting relatives, she said. I saw Lily by chance at the little market near the plaza. She has a table without expensive decor, clean samples, and price tags without sale today. She talks to people calmly and doesn't overpromise. I'm just letting you know. She keeps things in order. Thank you, said Mark. I'm glad to hear it. Let it work. The station was preparing a lesson for residents of the private sector. Protective strips around the house, cleaning gutters, storing gas cylinders. Mark made arrangements with the park to set up under a canopy. A couple from New Mexico approached after his speech. We have a house in Santa Fe. We always argue about the pine trees by the porch, the man said. Should we keep them or not? Keep the branches above the roof and remove dry pine needles, Mark replied. Water and clean soil around the house are more important than a beautiful shadow near the walls. He didn't say it reminded him of order in his life. He just handed out brochures and checked off a list. On Thursday, Lily sent one official email. I need your short response on the photo. Do you confirm the restriction on using the shot of the two of us for my portfolio? Mark replied, I confirm the restriction. No shot of me in the portfolio. That was the end of the conversation. More news came through friends. Lily found a local workshop where they rented a table for the day. There they work by the hour and without warehouses. She took the schedule, signed up for the morning hours. She transported the fabric in a suitcase on wheels. This is what Vanessa told me after a call with a mutual friend. And one more thing, Vanessa added. She turned down one client who asked for do it now, pay later. She wrote that she doesn't work that way anymore. So he's studying, Mark said. That's right. Samantha had a ta night. After the meeting, they went out to the parking lot. How are you? She asked. Calm down. Work is moving forward. Only work news comes from Lily. That suits me, said Mark. I sometimes think it's hard for people not to get involved in other people's stuff. You're holding the line, Samantha said. This is the only way to avoid returning to the old system. On Saturday, Mark dropped by his mother's. She showed him a printout his aunt had sent him, a list of Santa Fe fairs for the month. I don't want to interfere, Mom said. I'll just put it here. You can take it if you need it. Let it lie with you, Mark replied. This is not my area. On Monday evening, another indirect confirmation of the change arrived. Diane, the same manager at the fabric supplier, wrote briefly, Lily read order paid in full before shipment. Date confirmed. Thanks for letting us know earlier about the change in contact. Mark replied, good luck. He did not go into detail. Mark caught a glimpse of a photo from a lecture on copyright for craftsmen in his friend's feed. The slide said, photo with watermarks, publication date fixed, agreement with photographer. Lily was sitting in the audience in the frame. He scrolled further. He didn't like it or comment. They were easygoing with Samantha. In the evening after the club, she said, on Friday, the Science Museum has free admission for teachers. I'll go for an hour. If you want, we can meet in the lobby and walk around. No strings attached. I can come in for 30 minutes, Mark replied. I have training then. At the museum, they looked at a room with simple experiments where children lifted a weight over a pulley. Samantha smiled when a little boy finally figured out where to pull the rope. Mark stood nearby, not interfering. On the way out, Samantha said, "I'm glad we can talk briefly and without subtext. This is rare. It's easier for me this way," said Mark. At the end of the week, a neutral sign from the past arrived. The gallery where it all began posted a general message: updated program. No personal photos, just a list of authors. Lily was mentioned without an accent. Julie wrote to Mark, "It looks like she left on her own." Mark replied, "Most likely. It was her choice." He no longer sought moral formulas. The facts were as follows. Lily had left, was working, taking advance payments, attending lectures, and had stopped inventing later. Mark was teaching classes, training volunteers, and occasionally meeting Samantha for coffee. No follow-up messages, no attempts to come back for 6 months. The trial was proceeding as usual. On Saturday, he and Ben and a group of volunteers were running a drill in the library parking lot. Mark was assigned the roles of leader, 911, door check. The kids repeated them out loud. He saw that people calmed down when they knew what to say and what to do. That was enough. In the evening, he received a short message from an unknown number. "Thanks for insisting on contracts back in the day. I use a template. It works." Signature, L. Mark did not answer. He put the phone screen up and went to wash the dishes. A minute later, he deleted the message. Nothing more was required. The letter came from the mayor's office. Community Safety Night, a charity event in downtown Austin. The fire department was asked to set up a table, present a program for volunteers, and speak for a few minutes on stage. Captain Ramirez called Mark into his office. "Want to take this on yourself?" he asked. A couple of stands, a video on the screen, a short word. "I'll take it," Mark nodded. "I'll prepare cards and a video from the training." Closer to the date, Alyssa, the manager of the city hotel where the evening was held, wrote, "Mark, it's nice to see you. If you need a screen, let me know. And if you want to invite someone as a guest, I have one extra ticket." Mark forwarded the letter to Samantha. "Thursday night in town. I'm there with my desk. If you want to come by for an hour, I have a ticket." The reply came quickly. "I can after school. I'll be there at 7. If anything happens, I'll leave without offense." The day went smoothly. A short drive, a hose check, a 2-minute speech rehearsal. In the evening, Ben lent Mark a simple dark jacket and a serious tie. "Don't be a hero," Ben chuckled. "Say it briefly and leave the stage." The hotel lobby was crowded. Tables of non-profit organizations, posters, soft music. On the wall was a screen with sponsor slides. Mark laid out brochures on the table, put a tablet with a training video, and laid out a children's fire extinguisher trainer. "Mark," Alyssa came up. "Thanks for coming. Look, I wanted to say, I know you took down your studio recommendation. It's okay. We understand. Today is a different topic." "Thank you," Mark said. "Let's stick with her." Samantha came by at 8. She was wearing a simple black dress and a short necklace. She nodded. "I'm here for an hour. Where can I help you? You can stand next to me and answer about school activities. And I'll switch videos." People came up and asked questions. A young couple asked about evacuation plans for a studio apartment, and a pensioner was interested in batteries for smoke alarms. Samantha explained about classes at school and how children learn to speak in short phrases. Mark showed a fire extinguisher connected to a video. Vanessa from the cafe and 2 others from the neighbors' chat approached the table. "Mark, you're a good boy," Vanessa said. "We'll put up a 2 exits sign in our cafe. By the way," she hesitated, "it's none of my business, but people still whisper. If anyone comes up to me with questions about Lily today, I'll deflect the conversation. Just let me know if you want me to intervene." "Thank you," said Mark. "If anything happens, I'll say no comment myself. But your help wouldn't hurt." Half an hour later, Pete came from the station, said hello to Samantha, and picked up a couple of brochures for his neighbors. Everything was going smoothly. Then a tall man in a dark suit appeared next to him. Mark recognized Nolan before he spoke. There was a woman standing next to him, probably his wife. Nolan nodded to Mark. "Good evening," he said. "I saw your video. Good work. We haven't crossed paths since then. I wanted to." "It's a work evening today," Mark answered calmly. "Personal questions are closed to the mediator. Please leave them there." Nolan held his gaze for a second and nodded. "I understand. Good luck with the program." He moved to the next table. Samantha stood nearby and did not interfere. When the flow of people ebbed, she said quietly, "You did everything correctly, brief and to the point." The scene on stage was simple. The host announced a list of organizations, each speaking for 2 minutes. Mark came out and talked about short teams, 2 minutes to assemble, and a house evacuation plan. He asked everyone to draw a diagram of the apartment in the evening and hang it on the refrigerator. No stories about themselves, no hints. After the speech, an acquaintance from the market approached the table. "Mark, you're Lily's husband, aren't you? I saw that story about the gallery online, there." He began and made an expressive face. "I don't discuss personal matters," Mark interrupted him in a calm voice. "If you have questions about security, I'll be happy to answer them." "Yes, yes, of course," the man retreated. "Then, what sensors are best for an old house?" The conversation turned to business. A little later, an elderly couple came up and told her that their granddaughter was afraid of sirens. Samantha suggested that they come to a school practice without loud noises, and then gradually introduced the girl to the signals through recordings. "Write to me," Samantha said, handing over a business card. "We'll find a comfortable schedule." A silent auction was going on off to the side, with certificates, photos, and gift baskets on the tables. Mark and Samantha walked over to look. Among the items was a neat card, "Patchwork Quilt, Handmade, Santa Fe." The label was the name of the shop, not the name. The prices started at a reasonable amount. Mark glanced at it and moved on. Samantha didn't stop either. "Is everything okay?" she asked quietly. "It's fine. It's just a thing. Let someone buy it and use it," he replied. Alyssa came up to the table again. "Mark, we close the auction in 10 minutes. If you want to add something from the department, say so." "We did our job," Mark said. "The cards and the video worked." At the exit of the hall, they were caught up by a man with a badge that said Neighborhood Council. "We're having a special evening for the older kids to explain how to check alarms and avoid tripping during an evacuation," he said. "Will you be able to speak?" "Yes. Send the list of topics to the department's email. We'll adjust," Mark answered. "And can I get the contact information of the teacher who works with you?" "Only through the school," Samantha said. "Write to the principal. I'll be there." By 10 o'clock, the room began to empty. Samantha looked at her watch. "I'll go. Early classes tomorrow," she said. "Thank you for tonight." "I'll walk with you to the parking lot," Mark said. It was warm outside. They walked to her car in silence. "When people approach you with something personal, is it always a surprise?" Samantha asked at the open door. "Not anymore," Mark said. "But I have a phrase, and it works." "It's working," she nodded. "Then see you on Friday. I have a club. If you have time, drop by for 10 minutes. "I'll take a look." Mark returned to the gym, helped Alyssa fold the posters, and picked up the tablet and the machine. Pete waved at him from the coffee counter. "I shot normally. No arguments, no stories." "It doesn't need to be any other way," said Mark. At Ben's house, he placed the box of materials by the table. Ben looked out of the bedroom. "How did it go?" "Calm down." Nolan was there. He came up and tried to talk. I said, "Nothing personal." He understood. "Well done." Mark opened his email. There was a letter from the organizers. "Thank you for participating. 216 people watched your video. 43 people signed up for the home safety mailing list." He noted this in his notebook. At the bottom, he He added a short line, boundaries maintained. Before going to bed, a text came from Samantha. I got here. Thanks for seeing me off. Mark replied, have a nice day tomorrow. The shift started early. At the station, they checked the breathing apparatus and entered the maintenance dates in the log. Mark finished his coffee and went to the garage. Today, he had a short lecture for a group of pensioners from a nearby center, how to check smoke detectors and not trip during an evacuation. He packed a model of the detector, batteries, a screwdriver, and large print cards into his bag. Before leaving, the phone vibrated. A new letter in his personal mail. Sender Lily. Subject Grant. He opened it. I applied for a grant from the New Mexico Crafts Foundation and made it to the finals. They have a month to defend. Without the money you used to put in, I learned to count and plan. It's a late thank you, but it's real. Thank you for being so strict back then. L. Mark read it a second time. He answered briefly, good luck with your defense. I hope you get the grant. He closed his email and put his phone in his backpack. No questions, no clarifications, everything had already been said. At the senior center, they were met by manager Mary Ann. The room was bright, with pictures of clubs on the walls. Mark laid out the alarms on the table and cut strips of blue tape for marking. First, we'll show you where the test button is, he told the group. If you can't hear the high frequencies, bring a relative or neighbor, or bring a model with a visual signal. People came up one by one, tried pressing, and laughed when the quiet training signal went off. Mark repeated the main thing: change batteries according to the calendar, clean up dust, understand the exit plan through the other door. At the end, he handed out memos. Mary Ann said, thank you for not using complicated words. People leave with understanding, not with a sense of guilt. On the way to the station, Mark stopped at school to check the Friday schedule with Samantha. The teacher's lounge smelled of coffee. She was filling out a report. Hi, she said. I have robots on Friday, as usual. 2 eighth graders asked to come over and have a look. Do you mind? No problem. Just give them glasses and explain that they can't touch anything without permission, Mark answered. I'll come in at the beginning and show a quick block about keeping the table tidy. Agreed, Samantha nodded. And how is your morning? Normal. A group of pensioners. We're testing detectors. Work topic. She nodded, washing down her coffee with water. Mark hadn't told her about the letter from Lily. It wasn't a secret, it just didn't require discussion. That evening, Captain Ramirez called a short meeting. The city had asked for another yard training session at townhouses where false alarms were frequently triggered. Mark volunteered to write a scenario. 5 doors, 5 rolls, 2-minute timer, exit routes. He liked such tasks specific and useful. The next day, a notification came from the mediator. The final decree is being prepared for the scheduled date. No changes have been received. Mark ticked the box in his notebook and closed the letter. On Friday after school, Samantha and Mark went into a small diner with soup and sandwiches. They sat by the window, plastic trays on the table. The TA wrote to me, Samantha said. They want us to do a public lesson for parents in August on how to talk to kids about anxiety and alarms. Will you take the part about short phrases? I'll take it, Mark said. Breathe first, then speak is for everyone. She smiled and suddenly asked, can I ask you a personal question? If it's uncomfortable, ignore it. Would you ever like to go somewhere without a uniform and without plans? Just a day when no one needs anything. We can, Mark answered after a short pause, but only if it's without promises for years. Food, travel, getting back on time. Nothing more. Okay, Samantha said. Then next Sunday, a park outside the city. A picnic. I'll take fruit and water. You bring a knife and a blanket. If something goes wrong, no hard feelings. Agreed. On Saturday, Mark held a yard training. 10 residents, each with their own entrance. He handed out cards, turned on the timer, stood in the center, and noted where everyone got lost. At the end, they laughed and argued about whose plan was better. Mark wrote down for himself, "Make a common sheet of steps on one sheet." Back home, he opened his mail. A new letter from Lily. "Thanks for your reply. If I get the grant, I'll buy an industrial typewriter and rent a table for a month in advance. No, on credit. If I can, I'll send a postcard to my aunt in New Mexico from the fair." Mark read it, but didn't reply. Nothing more to add. On Sunday, he and Samantha went to a park outside the city. A small parking lot, wooden tables, a path to a stream. Samantha brought a container of strawberries, apples, and sandwiches. Mark got out a knife, a blanket, and reusable bottles. "I don't take school talk with me," Samantha said. "Today we just eat and say nothing if we want to." "It fits," Mark nodded. They walked along the path to the water, sat down on a snag. They talked about simple things, how the school lacked a lab technician, how the station was changing its glove supplier again, which routes were more convenient for jogging. No, what next? On the way back, Samantha stopped at a parking lot. "I'll be honest," she said. "You don't have to make plans with me. I'm not asking for status. I feel comfortable when we agree on specific things and do them." "Me too," Mark replied. "I don't hide the fact that I recently got divorced. I'm not ready for big words." "And there's no need," she said. "I can hear." On Monday, the school had a silent evacuation drill for children with noise sensitivity. Samantha had prepared pictogram cards in advance. Mark showed the down, breathe, go sign. Everything went smoothly. The principal thanked them for adapting. Later in the evening, a message from Alyssa at the hotel arrived in the station's general chat. "Thank you for participating in the charity event. Your cards have been completely taken apart. Please provide a copy of the layout." Mark sent the file and short instructions. The address L. Appeared in the mail again, a short line, "Still grateful." Mark didn't open it right away, put the phone down and went to the kitchen. Stirred the oatmeal, cut up a banana. Came back, "Read. I understand that you don't want a dialogue. I'm not writing to pay you back. I'm writing to close the debt. Thanks for the lessons on contracts and deadlines." He sighed, typed, "Accepted. Take care of yourself," and closed the topic. At the end of the week, Mark received the court schedule. The date for the final decree was confirmed. He sent his mother a short message. "We have the date." Her mother replied, "Come to dinner after." He set a reminder, "Dinner at Mom's." Samantha texted, "Ta approved August. I'll make a flyer. Can you stop by the bakery for 10 minutes on Wednesday?" "I will," Mark replied. The mailman rang the doorbell around 10. Mark signed for the envelope with the Travis County coat of arms and carefully cut the edge with a knife. Inside was the final decree of divorce. The judge's signature, the date, the list of attachments. He checked all the items: property, website, domain, no mutual claims, waiver of alimony. Everything matched what they had signed at the mediator. He made a copy for the file, sent Karen Harper a short letter. "Documents received. Thank you for the accurate work." An automatic, "You don't owe us any more," came to his phone. That suited him. Ben went into the kitchen and poured himself some coffee. "Has it arrived?" "It's here," said Mark. "I'm going to see my mother for dinner tonight, as I promised." "I'll pick you up after your shift," Ben offered. "We'll buy some bread on the way." It was a normal day at the station. A hose check, a quick trip to the smell of gas. The leak was quickly localized. Captain Ramirez nodded at the bulletin board. "On Saturday, the park is asking for another yard training. Will you take it?" "I'll take it," Mark replied. "I'll focus on the apartment plan and the timer." After his shift, he stopped by his mother's. There were stewed vegetables, chicken, and salad on the table. His mother listened to the short, "Maternity leave has arrived," and nodded. "It's good that everything is formalized, without unnecessary noise. Do you want to take the box with the photos from the attic?" "I'll take it," Mark said. "I'll put it with the others and sort it out over the weekend." Later, he met Samantha at the bakery. They sat by the window and had filter coffee. She said without preamble, "I'm glad you made it to the end of this process. If you want to avoid discussing anything, just say so." "There's nothing to discuss," Mark replied. "I have the documents. From now on, life as usual." Samantha nodded. They moved on to school. Summer vacation, August parenting class, volunteer applications. All relevant. The following week, Mark held a training session in the courtyard of townhouses. He handed out cards. Leader, 911, door check, window, neighbor call. He started a timer for 2 minutes. People were confused at first, then they gathered in a column and headed for the exit. At the end, he said, "Hang the diagram at home and rehearse silently. If it works without words, it will work with noise." A man approached a girl about 7 years old. "She's afraid of sirens," he said. "Can I put it mildly?" First, without sound and with cards, answered Mark. Then, recording at a low volume. Then, a short signal at school. "Don't rush." He gave Samantha's school card and the general station number. That was enough. A few days later, a postcard arrived from Santa Fe. On the front side, the Plaza Market. On the back, in neat handwriting, "I received a grant. I'm taking a typewriter and a table for a month in advance. I work only on an advance payment basis. Thank you for the words I once learned. Deadlines, contract, estimate, L." Mark put the postcard in a box with documents and didn't answer. At the bottom, he wrote the date in pencil, a habit of not losing facts. At the robotics club, Samantha showed a new board with a reminder, "Tidy desk." At the top are simple points. At the bottom is a small field, "Did well today." Mark said, "It works. It's clear that the child can check himself." "I took your idea with the cards," she replied, "and I added a pause column so they would learn to stop." Over the summer, the Science Museum held a short classroom safety session for teachers. Samantha taught a unit on ventilation, Mark on evacuation procedures. At the door, a woman from a neighboring district asked, "Have you been teaching these classes together for a long time?" "No," Samantha said. "We just like to work without the extra stuff." "That's obvious," the woman nodded. In the evening, they stopped at the diner on the corner. Mark got soup, Samantha got salad. "Sunday morning is free," she said. "I'm going to the water trail at 7. If you're in that area, we can walk a mile and then go our separate ways." "I will. No obligations or schedules. Let's agree on that." He noticed that their "lets" were always about one specific step, not about names and not about plans for years. This suited him. A couple of weeks later, a letter arrived from the mediator with the final PDF and the phrase, "Case closed." Mark forwarded a copy to his archive and deleted the letter from his inbox. It did not affect his work in any way. In his notebook, he crossed out the line "trial" and added a new one, August, lesson for parents. In Ben's garage, they were installing a new toolbox on the wall together. Ben asked, "You know what you miss? A day off without lists." "Sometimes I have one," Mark said, "but I just don't write it down in my notebook." They laughed. It was normal laughter without any subtext. At school, Samantha proposed a small task. "5 guys don't have gloves that fit. Ta will buy them, but later. Don't they write off small ones at your station?" "I'll ask," Mark answered. "If there are any, I'll bring them." There was indeed a box of children's gloves for demonstrations at the station. Mark agreed to write them off through the city's education department and gave them to the school under the act. Samantha said, "Thank you. You always make sure there are no questions later." "Otherwise, everything comes back," he replied. One evening, Vanessa called. "Mark, I have your 2 exits memo hanging in my cafe. People really look. And by the way, some friends from Santa Fe sent me a link. Lily is in the Craft Fund catalog as a finalist. No big texts, just like a workshop." "Okay," said Mark. "Let him work." He hung up and went to wash the dishes. This did not require a reaction. In August, the TA called a meeting of parents. Mark came on stage for 7 minutes. Short phrases, cards, 2 entrances. Samantha added about not overloading children with anxiety. The questions were practical. At the end, the mother of a boy from the class approached them. Thank you for speaking simply. Let's go home and draw a plan. They walked out into the parking lot. There was a warm wind. Samantha said, "Are you ever going to go on vacation?" 2 days in the fall. I'll go to my aunt in New Mexico. Say hello. And if you're in Santa Fe, don't go into the galleries. Go to the bookstore. It's quiet there. I wrote it down, Mark said. He did visit his aunt for 2 days. He ate green chili, walked around the market, bought a pendant for his mother from a local stand. He saw a lot of tables in Santa Fe, but he didn't look for the right one. He picked up a brochure at the bookstore about home evacuation plans for rural areas. He returned to Austin and put it with the rest of his materials. In the fall, school started again. Mark taught the volunteers block, Samantha taught physics. Sometimes they had breakfast at the bakery, sometimes they didn't see each other for weeks. No one presented the bill to anyone. From time to time, Lily's feeds would show working shots, a table, patterns, price tags. No urgent sign, no requests on credit. One evening, Mark sat on Ben's porch and looked out at the yard. He didn't look for moral formulas for himself. He had shifts at the station, training, rare dinners with Samantha, and clear business. The main thing was no second bottoms or hidden conditions. This was his order. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.